Well, good morning, everybody. Before we begin the conversation, we want to acknowledge and thank. This is Pastor Matt. Pastor Matt is also a chaplain at Orlando Health. He's been about 15 years, and his wife Jessica. And I'll let them tell their story about how they met, who they are, and then this is really going to be much more interactive than the last couple, so you're going to be able to ask questions. There is no dumb question, there's just a question, so feel free to ask whatever, because we all know that we don't know what we don't know. And if we don't know that we don't know, let's try to find a way to learn in a way that's healthy and productive. And we have two special guests out of the four.
Keep going.
I'll move your mic to the other side if you're looking at this way.
Okay.
And we will then continue from there. So, Mac and Jessica, if you would kind of introduce your family, and then we'll start from there.
Amen. As Pastor Justo just mentioned, my name is Mackenzie Mehu, and most of people call me Mac, especially in the hospital setting. And
some of us actually call him Big Mac.
So I got that all. I got Big Mac, I got the Mac the truck, I got Mac the knife, and I got Little Mac also, which is, because one of my daughters is Macklin, that call her Little Mac, and I'm like, we got all those Macs. And it is a great pleasure to be here with you today. And we have 4 children. This is my wife, Jessica, and we have 4 children. We have 2 girls. Unfortunately, they cannot be with us this morning, and my wife will tell you the reason why. But it is with great pleasure to be with you. And I'm from Haiti. I've been in this state for a good while. I've been going back and forth because my parents are still in Haiti. So my parents used to come to visit almost like once or twice a year. But it's been for a while since they come to visit, especially after the death of my father. My mom doesn't want to come anymore because every time she comes, that's bring memories. So we've been here and I came here in the state for education. Yeah, I came here in the state for education. I went to a small college, and we spent around 7 years in that college. I came for a bachelor's and I stayed for a doctorate. So we went there after the bachelor's. We said that, why not go for a master? And then after the master's, I stayed for doctorate. And my goal was to go back because my father is also a pastor. Our goal was to go back and be able to help out. But fortunately, when I met with this young lady, things been changed. And since then, we changed our plan to be here. And my wife actually knows more places in Haiti than I do. Yeah, because she was a missionary to Haiti. But we met here, and I will let her also tell you more about how we met. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and let Miss Jessica go ahead and share with you. I'm also a pastor down at Orlando. Our church is a church at the cross. I've been there for 14 years. Yeah, 14 years. And our church is a church where we do what we call language ministry. So we have Haitian, where we do the services in Creole and French. And I'm mostly the pastor since then. And then after that, probably, yeah, this is Carsten, our last one. The first one is Macklin. She's not here with us, and she's 11. And the second one is Liana Maj Meru. She's 9. She's not here with us. And this is our first boy. It's amazing that we want to have a boy first, but we have 2 girls first. And then we got Jean-Dric and then Carsten. So we probably ask them to go and play in the back. Cool guy, yes. And we have Spanish, where they do services for all of those who speak Spanish. And we have Tagalog for people from the Philippines. We have Vietnamese, and we have Brazilian, where they do the services in Portuguese. And we got a big community over there. And also we have those who do not speak. We do the deaf. We do the sign language for them. So I've been with that church for about 15 years, and I'm also a chaplain, as Brother Justo, chaplain for the psych unit. And then after that, I moved to Dr. Phillips, and then from Dr. Phillips, spent 1 year down in ORMC, where me and Pastor used to work together in ORMC. So my wife, I'll go ahead and share with you more. And the kiddos, if you want to go play in the back, you can go and play. Stay. Okay.
My name is Jessica, and I grew up in Ohio and moved down to Florida when I started college. But when I was a senior in high school, the church that I grew up in minded, and we did lots of mission trips. And my senior year, we went to Haiti on a missions trip. And while I was in Haiti, the missionaries we were staying with said, "Can you come back? We need some help in our school." They were in an orphanage. And as soon as they weren't asking any of us, they were just asking us to pray. And as soon as I immediately became very defensive and was like, "I can't go back there. As soon as I graduate, I'm never going to go back." Because the school was afraid that if I took time off, then I would just not go back. And I was like, I can't do it. But so I got back home and was applying to college, not saying I didn't get in, not saying I was a response whatsoever. And I knew that God wanted me to go back to Haiti, but I didn't want to because I was afraid. And so I was like, okay, God really wants me to go to Haiti. So I raised money, and I went there. And the day I flew into Haiti, I called back home once I got there on his phone, called my mom, and she's like, "You'll never believe what came in the mail today. Your acceptance letter to Clearwater Christian College." And I was like, oh, she's like, "See, God wanted you to do what he wanted you to do. And when you did what God said, then he's going to allow you to go to the college that you wanted to go to." So I went to Haiti and I worked at an orphanage kindergarten, and they taught them with a Christian English curriculum from the state. The kids out of their, it's not public school, but the schools there, pulled them out of school and started all of the kids back level and taught them all, was teaching them English and stuff, and they had been doing this for a few years before I came. So when I was there, kindergarteners and teaching them, just normal kindergarten stuff, but I didn't know their language, they didn't know mine. So we did a lot of walking around, teaching each other the language for the first couple months, and then we could start getting into alphabet and numbers and all those things. And there I made lots of friends, knew a lot of people. And then I came back to the state college, and every summer during college, I would go back and spend at least 1 month in Haiti every summer. And then my senior year of college, the church that I went to, there's a missionary to Haiti that came. And I went, I stayed with a family on Sundays because the church was an hour away from my college. So I stayed all Sunday and went back to church Sunday night. And so Sunday afternoon, they hosted this missionary, and he had a friend there from Haiti with him. So I was very Haitian man. I gave him my phone number, and I was like, I really want you to call me. And so later on that week, he called me, and he's like, hey, there's some other boys from the same part of Haiti where you served. Maybe you know. I know I don't know any of these people, because the people I know, I'm still in contact with them. They're not at your college. He's like, no, I'm going to pass the phone around. So he's passing the phone around to these other boys in his dorm. Was McKindis. And so our relationship started on the couple months. That was in November. And the first time we met in person was in January. And I knew the day I met him longer to realize it, because men are just sometimes a little slow things. So when we were together, I was showing him some photo albums that I had from when he's like, oh, you know this guy? I was like, yeah, that's Ruben. He goes, oh, Ruben's my cousin. And I was like, oh, and then was also his relatives, his cousins and stuff. So it was interesting, like how God put that together, how I met some of his extended family and was friends with them before I ever met him. He was here when I was there. So then we met and dated a few months and got engaged at the church. I was teaching Florida Christian Academy, and that's where I was before we got married. And then we got married and had a bunch of kids the whole time. So.
And it was the pastor that her church working with is a pastor that my dad worked together with.
Oh yeah, in Haiti.
So we didn't know that, and as she started telling me, this is the pastor that we work in Haiti. I said, oh yeah, this pastor worked together with my dad because they belong to the, or was like a lot of things that we have in common that we didn't, that I didn't know that she's gonna be my wife, but she knew that before. And after I graduated, actually we met a year before I graduated with college. And then after I graduated with college, and we girlfriend, and at the time things changed now that I say, okay, I might stay for a year or 2 years, or probably going together in Haiti for mission, but it was not working. And that's the time I start with the church that I am with. And my wife started teaching in that same school. So we've been there for a good while now. Yes. So I don't know if other question for us.
I do. Obviously, interracial, intercultural marriage How have people received you, received your children? Have you ever gotten those funny looks like, is that your child? And what do you expect of a church? So let's do the...
I mean, like, back home, it's not a question of black or white. Back home is more like rich and poor. So it's never been an issue between and white. I mean, like, when I was getting serious with Jessica, I called my parents to tell them that I have somebody that we interested and we praying about it and and they say, okay, no problem. The first question they ask is the person is a believer. Does the person believe in God? And they say the person has a good family. Do they have good standards? You know, but they never ask me if he's white or black. So when I tell them, they say it's welcome. So we never have any issue to my own family. I mean, I praise God, we never have really big issues. Right? But one time I went to a party, I think I went with John Dick, and many people keep asking, who is this boy? I said, that is my son. They said, is it your son? So people was not like kind of taking is my son. And later on, when they see my wife, they say, oh, okay. So that was my own Asian folks, you know. So, but I remember one time I went to a restaurant with some of the chaplain's friends, and I overheard a conversation where some of our black folks saying that those white girls, they take men, and and saying they do not appreciate those kind of things. But I never have somebody come like when I'm working some places with my wife, and for that, and I'm black, and we always welcome. We never have any issue, really with that.
Ohio, where I'm from, it's a very small town. There's like no black people there at all. So when I first came, we would go for a walk and like people would look at us strange. And I was black and I'm white, or if it's simply because he's black. You don't see that. Like the school that I grew up in, my entire years of there were 2 black kids total. So it was just very uncommon to see black people there. But a couple times I've had, Florida is a very multicultural, people from all colors, all had any people like look at us weird in Florida, but in Ohio I've had, or like traveling sometimes at airport, the TSA people like, who is this lady your mom or whatever, but for the most part I haven't had a lot of issues with that at all. And Haitian community, I've never felt different because I'm white. And the fact that I had been to Haiti and been a missionary and I can speak some of the language, I was always very welcomed. Like they're like, oh no, you're just one. We've never had issues with that. And I've talked to my the boys, but I've talked to the girls and they were like, no. When I'm with the Haitian people, I feel like I'm a Haitian, but when I'm not, then I just feel like a regular kid. I was like, okay. So they're like, yeah, we can be Haitian when we need to be Haitian and not Haitian when we don't. So cultural, then colors. Like it's not white people versus black people because we're in the Haitian community when we're with black people. I mean, our church, he said, there's all nationalities there, and there's lots of all different races, not just black and white, but a lot of all the colors, all the different
By the way,
We can.
please just let me know, since I got my back to you. And you can feel free to ask. They're fairly open. At times, there's a question that you feel uncomfortable with or you don't want to answer, simply say, I choose not to answer that. But, so, what do you look for? What attracts you in a church?
He has a story he wants to tell.
Just talk. Just a mini microphone? Tell your story. So, oh my goodness, that's close. So, when my mom and dad were married, my dad cooked food, and then my mom said, "Can I have some?" And then my dad said, "No, it doesn't taste good." Then can I tell you the one about cake?
Tell your other story.
Okay. When I was at one of my cousin's birthday party, my dad said, "Please give me a little bit of cake." So my mom bit of cake, and then he says, "Babe, that's not enough."
It's true. It's true.
So he's picking up.
Most people in Haiti know how to cook, but my husband, being the youngest and the spoiled, he does not know how to cook. So one day he tried. It was before we had kids. I came home from work and I was like, "Oh, no." He's like, "Yeah, I don't think you want to eat it." And I was like, "Why?" He goes, "Because I don't even want to eat it." I was like, "Okay, well."
Why?
He tried. And he doesn't try anymore.
Yes. Question will come back to
I have a question about, can you say one more time, in your ministry, you have Creole and...
That's correct. We have English, which is the center for everybody, and Creole. We have Spanish, yes. We have Tagalog, Vietnamese, and sign language.
Okay.
Yes.
So, I'm interested to know how that's, because we're talking about welcome today,
Amen.
and it's hard to think of how that's so many languages, and did people come join you, other pastors who speak other languages? Did you seek out people?
We do have evangelization where we do the track. We got them on different languages. For example, when people go in for visitation, if they realize you speak French, they ask you what language do you speak, and then they pass you the track for the language that you speak. That's correct. The start, it's like a church that have different. We're gonna talk about Jesus soon. A second. He wants to know if we're gonna talk about Jesus. Yes, it starts to the fact that we are having different culture. For example, second and third generation Haitian. The first generation doesn't speak any English.
Yeah.
The second generation English, like myself, with strong accent, fluent English. So when they come to the church, we feel like it would be best to come to a church where the family can be together and be able to worship. So when somebody comes to church, somebody would hear, like the second generation, they just drop mom or mom and dad to the Haitian where they speak and everything in Creole, and they have the choice where they can go to the American service or to the Haitian service, or just be either one, and the kids understand almost nothing in Creole, so they go straight to the English. The children ministry where they do services. When they do the services in the grade and where they speak their languages. And it's happened for all the other Spanish, the same. So when we come to church, we all are in the same church, but in different, everybody understand their own language. So this is like more like a melt. Yeah. So, but we do it to the fact that everybody can feel and understand the languages.
Okay.
Yes.
Very good. So I've met a little multi-language ministry, and it was very hard to avoid the fact that the English became the main important language, and then the others were like secondary languages, and culturally that we're in a culture of English speakers. And so, just in all sorts of cultural things, like for instance, well, the English speakers would be like, it starts exactly at 10 o'clock. The Spanish language speakers or the other speakers would say like, no, it starts when my mother gets here. And it was hard to not have it be that the norm is and then soon the other language speakers started to feel like they were just an addition.
That's correct, yes.
But the main pastor was a native English speaker, and most of the staff were all native English speakers, so that became kind of the controlling fact. I don't know, it just seems like it's quite a gift of the Spirit to be able to have so many languages.
Yes.
Maybe when you get more, then you don't have that hierarchy of English and then the lower ones and the even lower ones. Maybe there you can. I don't know how you've done that, but
Actually, you go ahead.
On Sunday mornings, all the language communities do not necessarily meet at the same time as the English-speaking service. And all of us, because our kids are all in the children's ministry at the church, so we are basically on the same time schedule on Sunday mornings. If you want your children to go to children's ministry where they're going to actually learn in the language they understand. Several of the ministries meet Sunday night, and they're all together. Their whole family meets. And then the Haitians, we meet Sunday morning and Sunday night, and no separate children's service then. So on Sunday mornings, it's all very organized by time, or on Sunday evening, it's not based completely on time, because it's not like, oh, we have to go get our kids from this or whatever. So Sunday nights is a lot more flexible with time. We stay on schedule, just because our church has a school. So we have to be out at a certain time, we need to clean and get everything ready for school on Monday morning. So there's a lot going on in our campus because it's such a large church and has a school. So we have to do it. And the Brazilians meet in the same chapel that we meet at, but they meet an hour and a half before we do. So we go in after them. So the time is, we have to stay on schedule in order to meet everybody's needs.
yeah.
So I have some experience in multicultural church that I'd like to share with you. When I was called to Pilgrim St. Luke's, which is a UCC church, they first approached me and asked pastor for their new Spanish language services. And I said no. Orlando, you think I'm going to go back to Buffalo? That's not going to happen. I said no for 6 months, but I kept hearing something of the Spirit saying, but keep praying about it. 6 months later was May of 2013, and I woke up that morning and I absolutely knew that I needed to be in Buffalo. What for? Because it was crazy to be able to go back. I mean, I left Buffalo on purpose. I wanted in my life. And I would not serve as their associate pastor with all of my experience, and said they would leave me. I just looked at it and I said, okay, you really want me to hire me as the co-pastor with the same authority, salary, and as the guy that's been there 25 years? And I think, they're going to leave me alone, because that. And then I got a call from the pastor at that point, who became my co-pastor, I became his, and he said, Justo, that's a great idea. And I'm like, no. This was to stop. Buffalo, 2 years later, retired. And we had been doing Spanish, then services in English, and it got to the point where we were doing service in English first, then in Spanish. And at Christmas of 2000 after he retired, I decided, church council approval, that we were going to do, for the Advent season, intercultural, multilingual service, and we changed the bulletin. So when I got there, after I got there, started getting Brazilian students from the university, started to get Haitian Creole speaking, and from Kenya, French. So part of our bulletin changed to, because I truly believe that if anybody walks in your church, they should find something that they can relate to.
Yeah.
So all the headings of the church, each section, Spanish, Portuguese, and French. All of the headings. Now, we also decided, I have 4 different languages read for the gospel, but what we ended up doing was we agreed upon all the all the Old Testament scripture would be read in every and every gospel would be read in English with the Spanish translation, and then we added in and the French to that. We also decided that was not enough. So in our call to worship, after I learned it, whether it is in Portuguese or Spanish or French, so that we could add at least a line into our call. We ended up changing our music. Our transitional music went from just hired a guitarist, and we taught people to sing. Now, they did not fully understand, so we taught them the chorus. And one of my joys, 80-some-odd-year-old woman who didn't sing alabaré. Alabaré, 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 alabaré. So it was kind of an easy, and then they called to the clapping that Latinos do. And they started joining us in clapping. And that became a standard our service, and I have the ability to simultaneously translate and speak a sentence or two in English, and then I would go to Spain, back and forth. So every week we preached in 2 different languages. We had people who were willing to help if somebody did not understand English and with their native language. So what ended up happening is after that 6 we complained. So I was back, it didn't come. So I just conveniently forgot that it was for 6 weeks, and we kept doing church. We found out that most of our speakers were bilingual. We had a couple who were the sermon in Spanish. Most of our college students spoke English as well as their native language, so they could be served all. But it was a gradual step by step. People walked in the door, they could relate to them. So if we were to do that, let me just ask you now, if at a multilingual service or bulletin, what languages do we need to include in this neighborhood and in this area? We need to speak Spanish, okay? At the top of your head? So, David, we've a little bit in the coming weeks of just a little subliminal by adding in a few things in Spanish just to get people a taste. This, especially when we kept doing it, then we did get a little pushback. Like the woman, well, I came to an English-speaking church and in other languages. And she was angry. Well, what I didn't tell you is in the 4 years that I was there, she probably shops. So were we going to cater loudmouth who wasn't active but wanted to dictate how the church? Let me just say, absolutely not. So we need to talk about here is with our church council and our fall begin. By the way, people are asking when are we starting it? Started it the day I got here. Okay? And these educations are part of that, and there's other things that are coming along the way. What we'll talk about is how do we start to move us, even if it, so that we can, when we welcome, that they feel that there's something for them, that there's affinity to the language. I am fluent in Spanish and English, but that's it. And yet, Spanish is, and when I go to a church that is cultural, intercultural, and has a little sprinkling, that's like la gloria de Dios for me. That's God's glory. Because that I'm a little bit Hispanic in this service, recognizing that and welcoming me, even if it's that little bit. So, any thoughts on how we as a church can move? Yes, sir, in the back. Yes or no? No? Okay. But any thought, you share them today or you take some time to process. That's cool. And if you notice my style, out and let people ponder and reflect upon. and then we'll come back to it. So you'll always get a chance before we move where we're going.
I have a suggestion. I don't know if you guys have like greeters or certain people who greet as people are coming in, but I think it's a good other language that's in the community to learn just phrases like welcoming, welcome to our church, and just some basic, especially your greeters who are the ones doing, but even just the people in the church learning Spanish phrases so that way the people feel more welcome coming in and be like, I'd say whatever. And I have learned that because I don't speak fluent Creole, but I can understand more than what I speak. But when Haitian people hear me even attempting, whether it's bad Creole or not, they can usually understand what I'm trying to say. They're able to understand my bad Creole. And they feel so much like their language. So I think that's a very important thing, I would say.
You don't mind sharing with us multilingual and intercultural ministry just doesn't happen? There's a process. So I'm the Spanish-speaking, Haitian-speaking, Brazilian, or Portuguese-speaking. How did they know to come to your church that they would be welcomed extravagant with their native tongue?
We do have a track where we pass people who know in our church we have those languages. And also, I remember we used to have some kind of big event where we pick an English song that is well known.
International service.
Yes.
We did an international service where on the platform here.
That's correct.
I think where all of the different language communities, like, because we had the English church had their praise and worship team, but each community usually had their own praise and worship team or group, the people who the worship, and we would take people during the service, and so we would all this is the song that we want to do on International Sunday morning, and we would all learn it in our own language, and they would put it up on the screens in our languages. So we would have 5 different language communities across the stage in our language, and then another one would sing a verse in theirs.
Mommy, John did this not letting me play with
Something different.
Yeah.
And so services like that, and people would wear, the Vietnamese would wear their special clothing, and the Haitian would wear clothing and stuff. So just very traditional to your country. And we would do that a couple times a year. And we also had to usually try to plan it around when we were having missionaries in, but it didn't always work that we weren't always in at the same time. Have our gym is set up with tables all the way inside the gym, and we'd have big signs set the Haitian table, this is the Jamaican table, this is all the different ethnicities that were around at the church, and you would just go through the, and we usually would do that once a year, but it would always fall on an international Sunday of worship time. But our church has, of the church, like when people are coming in, it said there's signs and then there's signs like outside of the main worship center. There's like a big Church at the Cross sign, and we have like a tent out there for like first-time guests, and they're holding signs that say first-time visitors come here. And so those they start to talk to them, and if they realize they're English isn't, they'll offer them, we have these services going on, would you like me to take you to where the Spanish is meeting or whatever? And sometimes they want to go there, and sometimes they're like, oh no, we're comfortable with English, and they'll go to the English service. So it's just those people out that are the first people you see, those are the ones that kind of gauge, sound like they've got an accent, let's see where they're from and kind of take them to those areas.
Faster with those kind of things, because when we do those international things and where we sing in our own language, in our own way, we play things, and people do that here, and they more common. And also one of the things that work a lot in our church when people first time visitors, not only we pass them the bulletin board, I tell them this is the program that we have, but we have some greeters trying to figure out what language you speak, where you can fit better. To come back to Pastor Justo's question, for me, when I go to a church for the first time, what I would like to see so that I can come back to talk. They want to know about me, and they welcome me. And when you heard and you seen, and people will be appreciate that, and they will come back. And always through an invitation, especially, it's not the fact that people belong to a church, but we find out that people in church, they are looking for that particular church where they belong. They belong to that church. Is not matter of distance. They might live very, very far, but they will come because the standard that you talk, they feel like they've been heard. When they are coming in the church, you welcome them with a big smile. And as my wife say, even you don't speak the language, but such as hola, como ta, something like this, they are with me. And then you show appreciation. I think that's exactly what Jesus Christ does. Because some of the disciples say, no, you cannot go there. But he still showed them that I'm there in passion. So when you find those kind of people will come. As a chaplain, one thing that I realize right now is that people are trying to get to the smaller church. And the reason why, they say that when I'm here, and they know when I'm not here. And if people do not see me, they give me a call to see. You know that they care for you, but also you feel like you belonging, and you feel like it's part of my family. And as it is part of family, Wednesday for the Bible study or whatever activities that we have, we're waiting for it to be there. So for our visitors, it is important that not only they visit, but we follow up with them. Thank them, such as sending a card, say, we thank you for coming, or even a text, to tell them that we did appreciate that you come to visit us. Even when the person has a church that they belong to, where they are, they will not feel comfortable, or it's a church that I need to be, because that church, they show love and they show compassion. And sometimes it doesn't require a lot, but it's just to pour your heart out, and people will know. And when you fake it, and also one other thing is the fact that I remember one of the church that I